Welcome and good morning to Clares Court School here in the hall. We are live streaming as well to our friends and families away, and this of course is our last day of the Lent term. We've put together a service today which we hope will both commemorate the work of our school, of the wider Commonwealth in which we sit, and during which we'll remember those former members of staff who contributed so fully to school life when they were here at school. Well-deserved applause, I'm sure, but if we could leave the final applause till the end as we go through the rest of the service. As you'll understand, the readings have their own poignancy for us to hear.
Our unity is our strength. We are here today to celebrate our membership of the Commonwealth. Our celebration today gives us the opportunity to promote the strong unity, diversity, and shared values of the Commonwealth family across the world. In Africa, Asia, the Americas, Europe, and the Pacific. We have seen so much change over the past 2 years, and it is important to renew the values that bind us together as members of the Commonwealth. These values are democracy, peace, human rights, equality, tolerance, respect and understanding, stewardship, promotion of youth, and protection of the vulnerable. Most especially in this year of Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee, we value the opportunity to pay tribute to our unparalleled service. The following, read by Jonas Stevens, is the Commonwealth Day message of Her Majesty the Queen, Head of the Commonwealth.
In this year of my Platinum Jubilee, it has given me pleasure to renew the promise I made in 1947, that my life will always be devoted in service. Today, it is rewarding to observe a modern, vibrant, and connected Commonwealth that combines a wealth of history and tradition with the great social, cultural, and technological advances of our time. That the Commonwealth stands ever taller is a credit to all who have been involved. We are nourished and sustained by our relationships, and throughout my life, I have enjoyed the privilege of hearing what the relationships built across the great reach and diversity of the Commonwealth have meant to the people and communities. Our family of nations continues to be a point of connection, cooperation, and friendship. It is a place to come together, to pursue common goals and the common good, providing everyone with the opportunity to serve and benefit. In these testing times, it is my hope that you can draw strength and inspiration from what we share as we work together towards a healthy, sustainable, and prosperous future. And on this special day for our family, in a year that will include the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting and the Commonwealth Games, I hope we can deepen our resolve to support and serve one another and endeavour to ensure the Commonwealth remains an influential force for good in our world for many generations to come.
In celebrating the Commonwealth, we also celebrate those who help protect it. As you have seen from the slides as I've clicked through them, there are those in our own community who do their best to protect us, those in the emergency services, those in the public services, and those in the military. And that service that is given comes also here to school. And we are recognising everybody in the hall here for your contribution, but those also whose contribution can no longer be made because they've passed away. And so today, in memory of Hugh Wells, our former Director of Studies, Deputy Head Academic, Mr. John Briggs, former Head of English, and one of the linchpins of the sixth form, we remember those two gentlemen. Please would you stand for our first song. Now, we're not obviously used to singing together, so this is our first opportunity in over 2 years. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see, no, I won't be afraid, oh, I won't be afraid, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand by me, stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountain should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand by me, stand by me. Lord, you said that once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I've noticed that during the most troublesome times in our life, there's only one set of footprints on the path. Why, when I needed you most, did you leave me? The Lord replied, my son, I love you and would never leave you. During your times of trial and suffering, when you see only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. Darling, stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand by me, stand by me. And when you're in trouble, won't you stand by me? Oh, stand by me. Won't you stand now? Oh, stand by me.
These Things Shall Never Die by Charles Dickens. The pure, the bright, the beautiful that stirred our hearts in youth, the impulses to wordless prayer, the streams of love and truth, the longing after something lost, the spirit's longing cry, the striving after better hopes, these things can never die. The timid hand stretched forth to aid a brother in his need, a kindly word in grief's dark hour that proves a friend indeed. The plea for mercy softly breathed when justice threatens high, the sorrow of a contrite heart, these things shall never die. Must let nothing pass for every hand, must find some work to do. Lose not a chance to waken love, be firm and just and true. So shall a light that cannot fade beam on thee from the high, and angels' voices say to thee, these things can never die.
Promise yourself. Promise yourself to be strong, that nothing can disturb your peace of mind. To talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet. To make all your friends feel like there is something in them. To look at the sunny side of everything and make your optimism come true. To think only of the best. To work only for the best and to expect only the best. To be just as enthusiastic about the success of others that you are about your own. To forget the mistakes of the past and present and achieve the great future. To wear a cheerful countenance at all times and give every living person you meet a smile. To give so much time to the improvement of yourself that you have no time to criticise others. To be too large for worry, too noble for anger, and too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble.
When you walk through the storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm, there's a golden sky and a sweet silver song of our love. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, for your dreams be lost and alone. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk
The service we render to others is really the rent we pay for our room on this earth. It is obvious that man is himself a traveller, that the purpose of this world is not to have and to hold, but to give and serve. There can be no other meaning. I ask Mr. Bowen and Mr. Sibley to say a few words on behalf of the school in memory of Mr. Wells and Mr. Briggs.
Not a lot of you will have known Mr. Wells. I know Mr. Beck will have known him and a few of the staff. He died at a ripe old age of 92, which was a fantastic innings, to quote a cricket commentator. But he was a lovely guy. He was one of the best teachers and the best friends anyone could have. And I'm just going to say a few words about him, really. So Hugh Wells was probably one of the nicest people I've ever met. And no, he was the nicest person I ever met. And a lot of the staff who knew him would say that as well. He was kind, trusting, very, very interesting with his experiences of the world, warm-hearted, and a man who always had time for anyone, whether teacher, pupil, or any member of staff. He always talked to people. He was a fantastic guy. He was a great listener, a great counsellor, who communicated with everyone. But with always, when James will attest to, the kindest of words. There was not a bad part of him I could actually mention. If anyone was perfect in life, he was probably Hugh Wells. He arrived in school here from South Bucks to teach biology and science across the year groups, and was soon regaling staff with his legendary stories, because he was actually schooled in India. That was where he was based, because his father was in the army there under the British Empire, and he was brought up under the Raj, and he had many, many interesting stories. He should have written a book, really. He became Director of Studies here, steered the academic ship with great aplomb, and then probably mentored a lot of people through that academic time. He was brilliant. He was instrumental in organising the yearly exchange with a school in Kortrijk, in Belgium, where he made friends for life. And Mr. Wilding and I were at the funeral a few months ago, and actually people from that school came to the funeral. He was so revered over there, and they came over as well. He loved his rugby, was always interested in the international fixtures, particularly when England played New Zealand, because his brothers left India, Hugh came here, and his brothers moved to New Zealand and adopted that country. And there was always a sort of great rivalry between him and his brothers, especially when England played New Zealand. He retired from Clare's Court, then came back to join the maths department as a part-time tutor, working mainly on one-to-ones and getting people through and up and ready for GCSEs, which he did with brilliant skill. And I heard one former pupil say he was a Rolls-Royce of teaching, which was a great compliment. He would be sorely missed. He was a major part of the Clare's Court community. He was a trusted colleague, a fantastic teacher, and a great friend, and a brilliant confidant. I'm sure he's telling the same interesting stories to one and all, wherever he is at the moment. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't think there's very many staff here, and certainly no pupils here who would remember the person, the teacher I'm just about to talk about. I'm going to read you actually the tribute I paid at his actual funeral. Anybody who did know him would certainly remember him, that's for sure. So, a tribute to John Briggs, commonly known as Briggo. I first met John to speak to in a rather strange way. I'd only just started to teach in a new job at Clare's Court School in Maidenhead. At that particular time, I was still living with my wife and two daughters in North Devon. In a temporary arrangement, I was lodging during the week close to the school in Maidenhead, going home at weekends, driving back on Monday mornings. On this particular Monday, I was feeling understandably rather tired. I usually had a free period, however, on the last one of the Monday afternoon. Not on this one, however, as I was asked to cover an absent teacher's lesson. So I found myself thus in a room upstairs along the then middle division. The boys had been left work, were very well behaved, and were quietly getting on with it. So much so that my tired self started to nod off and jump awake again. Suddenly, Just as my head was beginning to lilt again, there was a thunderous, tumultuous roar, so loud and sudden that I nearly hit the ceiling. "Oh, don't worry, sir. That was only Mr. Briggs next door. We usually get one or two of those. That was only a gentle one." "Gentle one?" "Oh, yes, sir. On the Richter scale, that was probably only a 7 or 8. So you wait until you get a 9 or a 10. "No, thank you. I'd rather not," I said. After the bell had rung and the boys had been dismissed, there was a rap on the door, and in strode an upper middle-aged, stocky gentleman. "Hope that little outburst didn't disturb or frighten you," he said. "It's needed sometimes, because the majority of them have got the brains and concentration levels of a gnat. By the way, my name's John Briggs, but most of the staff call me Briggo. Anyway, what madness brought you here?" And thus started a 31-year close friendship, which sadly came to an end on the 2nd of January this year, 2022. In that time, I very quickly discovered that his bark was far greater than his bite. He was a highly intelligent, and yes, he might have got a little disappointed and impatient with a person or pupil who couldn't keep up with him. But behind that cloak, there was a highly sensitive and thoughtful man. As a close friend, he became a great listener and would always come back with a gentle and sympathetic solution. As a teacher, he was outstanding and wanted to help others, particularly those who wanted to be helped. Yes, he was a perfectionist. He put hours of extra work into his lesson preparation because he wanted to get good results for his own satisfaction as well as his pupils. And excellent results he got. It didn't, however, just stop at his English teaching duties. He gave up a massive amount of time each year in being the producer of various plays and productions. No doubt the pupils would have experienced the odd explosion that I experienced on that faithful Monday afternoon. Now, mine and my late wife's, Monica's, friendship with John developed over the ensuing years. John and I travelled to football and cricket matches at weekends and school holiday times, as well as regular Friday evening meetings between the three of us at a variety of John's locals. Sadly, since John's movement to living quarters in the lower Midlands, our meetings over the last 4 years have been far less frequent, particularly, of course, since COVID. Our friendship, however, never diminished, and we still kept our telephone conversations going. It is one such conversation that I want to use to finalise my tribute to John Briggs, the real John Briggs. I had just lost my dear wife, Monica, to cancer, and I was in an awful state. Along, to be fair, with many, many of my friends and relatives, John, the real John, was tender and comforting. He listened to me. He shared my sorrow. He said all the right things and gave the right advice. This was the real John Briggs that I knew, and that's the real John Briggs that I want to remember. God bless you, John. May you rest in peace. Your friend, Alan.
During their time, Mr. Wells and Mr. Briggs were the heartbeat of the school, and it's lovely that we have today so many memorable staff creating the heartbeat of Clares Court.
We are here today to remember the bravery of those who serve our country now, in the armed forces, in the emergency services, and in public service. Call of Duty, written by B. Jaladoni, for her warrior who was called to be in the war zone. Bodies tied from little sheep not eating time at all. Standing, walking long hours, running for lives on the line. Minds strained from the persistent mindful decisions to make and call, and the ripples and consequences to endure or rejoice over. Hearts broken for limits that can't be helped. Deaths to witness and declare. Families to console. Souls weary from all of these, yet carrying the greatest risk. Questioning if it is still worth it. Longing for families, lamenting absence from home. Yet the body's tired, minds strained, hearts broken. Souls weary, in the forefront you stand. Knights without armour, warriors without swords. Fighting with all your might for something more than a Pyrrhic victory.
When Mrs. Olivier was helping me design this service, she was keen that we understood this great opportunity we have to recognise that people stand by people. It's what sets the human race perhaps apart when we're civilised and when we care for others. And you were so responsive as a community through your charity work and through the donations coming in from home, and no doubt you'll continue to be as supportive as we think of those in the wider Commonwealth who are really facing some of the most appalling violence anybody can imagine. And when we think of the nations of the Commonwealth, from across the globe we come together and we stand for peace, for community, and for compassion. And I hope that we will always remember that in whatever we do, that we are one people on this planet Earth. And talking of peoples, as we look across this map of Western Europe, you see the Celtic nation. Perhaps the Celts started 5,000 years before Christ was born in that central yellow part of Middle Europe. But they spread across Western Europe into England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. And the Celts, bit by bit themselves, were pushed outward to the extremities that you now see of Brittany, Wales, Anglesey, Ireland and the far west and north. When we think of the Celts, we think of a very old people and a very old prayer. On the journey we face, this prayer is to help us. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back, and may the sun shine warm upon your face, and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. And there is a response, which I'd like you to join with me in. God be in my head and in my understanding. God be in mine eyes and in my looking. God be in my mouth and in my speaking. God be in my heart and in my thinking. God be at mine end and at my departing. So please stand for our final hymn. Please sit down. And very grateful thanks to my readers, to the contributions made by our musicians and singers, and to you, our congregation here today. Thank you, boys. Thank you, the wider community, for taking part and understanding. We have a huge Commonwealth here at Clares Court, but part of a much larger Commonwealth of peoples in the world. Thank you for attendance today. If you'd like to give our musicians and readers a final round of applause.